Hello, good morning. My name is Bruno Chatelin. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. I'm based in France and will be talking about my experience about the Oscars. I was recently chatting with a colleague of mine, Oleg Lubske, and he had a couple of questions, and I had share my experience. First, well, a little bit of my background. I was raised in the business school called HEC in France and started my career in marketing with ad agencies, the big ones, American ones like J. Walter Thompson, Macy's, etc. I was hired to become the marketing director at the joint venture in France, Warner Columbia. I handled all marketing for the releases of Columbia TriStar Films for about 8 years and was then asked to form the joint venture between UGC, the French major, and 20th Century Fox. As managing director, setting up the boundaries, the role, the objectives of this new company, who very quickly became the number two in the market. In that experience, I had many occasions to work with films that were on the Oscar and had won Oscars. But I'll come back to that. After that, I founded filmfestivals.com, co-founded, as a matter of fact, and I'm now the editor and the managing director for the past 20 years or so. I also wear a special hat, a second hat, a festival agent, helping filmmakers to navigate the festival circuit, sharing my marketing experience, opening my network, helping them connect with the key festivals that fit best their strategy, etc. So what about the Oscars, said Oleg. Well, first, as a distributor, like I said earlier, I worked with maybe 10, 20 or so who had won a number of Oscars. If I can remember just a few, let's say Silence of the Lambs, the re-release, of course, of Lawrence of Arabia, which was a kind of a record breaker with, I can't remember, maybe 11 Oscars. Glory, it's big, like I said, Silence of the Lambs, but also Philadelphia, Braveheart, Hook, Coppola's Dracula, well, many, many, many. And the importance of an Oscar at that time, I'll come back to that because things have changed. The importance of the Oscars was in the timing. The amount of publicity generated by the campaigns, by the nominations, by the awards were a very big help for a distributor. And therefore, we would plan the release at a date that was relevant in view of this the Oscar dates. Let me be more specific. For instance, Braveheart. The release was somewhere in October. I do remember spending the time at Deauville Film Festival with Mel Gibson, then going to premiere at Edinburgh, and believe it or not, the bell broke. That means 20-minute waiting in the theater, and Mel Gibson stood up in the theater and stood on the chair and started giving jokes and speeches for a good 20 minutes. And that didn't harm the screening, and we were pretty successful there with an after party in the local castle, etc. A nice memory. So overall, what I must say is we had a fall release, if my memory is correct, and we were hoping that when the career of the film was over, like this, it would be catch up caught, I would say, by the starting of the Oscar campaign. We started sending out publicity, awareness among the media, etc. And the big media are very important into this. And therefore, we were planning a re-release, a second release, around the dates of the Oscar revelations. Well, of course, hoping that we would get some. I must say, so globally, as an average, this re-release could be calculated in an average of box office, and that hear my words, that's very important. The Oscar were accounting for an additional 15, 20, 25%, meaning extra box office for the re-release, where we could announce not only the nominations that probably would have been on the opening poster, but then the Oscar wins would be advertised in conjunction with the second release, and all of this together, my colleagues and I would say, was roughly accounting for an additional $20 million. 20%, sorry, I'm sorry. And I was trying to get that into dollars. Believe me, that's a lot of cash for the studios. Probably 40, 50 million, etc. That was enough to validate a re-release, because of course a release is expensive. You have to go with the probably new prints and campaigns, advertising campaigns, etc. So, as far as I remember, regarding Braveheart, who had been a big hit everywhere, France was a little bit different, and not my fault. But at this time, Mel Gibson was worried by the campaign that the French state was doing with nuclear tests. I think it was Chirac's time, President Chirac, and he was very much against it. And I had managed to get him the highest honor, cultural honor. He had a medal of des Arts des Lettres, the highest rank, Chevalier, I think. Which we had convinced the Minister of Culture to grant him. Everything was booked and set. The date of the cocktail with 150 media attending was set, and he was supposed to do a speech and receive and thank France. But he told me that not only would he refuse it, but he would like to expressively mention why he did not want this honor. And of course, I spoke with Jim Giannopoulos, who said, do what he says, what he asks, which I did. Then I took it to the TF1 show with Patrick Poivre d'Arvor, the host, anchorman. That's the biggest channel in Europe, the biggest in France, of course. And before the start of a show, I made sure and asked Patrick Poivre d'Arvor, let's make sure we only speak about the film, Braveheart. No politics, please. And he said, yes, Bruno, of course. And opening of the TV show, the news show, 8 p.m. First question is, Mel Gibson, why did you refuse the Medal of Arts et Lettres? And of course, I was furious. And the fact that he expressed a negative statement about France, about French people, about our government, was a big impact on our box office. And I think we did about, can't remember exactly, 1.5 million admissions or so, which we were hoping to do a bit more, maybe 2 or 2.5 or something. So, well, my first point was, yes, the Oscar wins statutes can bring a lot of business, and it can be an average of 20%. Now I think things have changed. There are a multiplication in media, the social networks, and the sources of information about a film have been multiplied. And basically, what was predominant in the media at those times came from the big media saying loud, this film has won 11 or 7 or best scenario, best director, whatever. And that was a big thing in people's mind. And these days, I understand that although I'm not in the command of the campaigns, these multiplication of sources make the people probably more aware of what the film is, regardless of the wins he's received. And therefore, I would say that in people's minds, the impact of the Oscars is probably a little bit lower. Also, the way the films are distributed with less time in the screen, in the theaters, an average time, I mean, average number of weeks, made it more difficult to play with the Oscars and the re-release because well, old film is dead film. So I'd say that the commercial box office impact is less important, and you can quote me on that. I strongly believe that now people are relying on what they hear from their peers about the film, and it's more important to have people that say it's good or bad or liked it or hated or whatever than trusting the local premiere print magazine or TF1 interview or journalist. So that's the probably a direct impact from the power of the social networks. Um, Another question by Oleg was, as a professional, would you rather trust working with a person that has received an Oscar or someone who was a big hit at the box office? I would say as a professional, it wouldn't make a difference at all. I would have as much respect for people, someone who's won an Oscar, international recognition, or someone who has been involved in a very, very big commercial and box office worldwide success. It just means that this person in front of you knows how to deliver and has the trust of the profession, and they would both have the same level of trust as a professional. Although I'm not into production, I would probably be more inclined, if I believe in my film, the film I wrote or directed or produced, I would be more inclined to work with someone who was involved with a big commercial success. I would tend to think that is more important to the success of my movie. If I'm not so confident for some reason in the potential of my film, I would perhaps feel like going towards someone who has received the Oscars, because that is something I can advertise on the poster. And that means that if I need to advertise that with Oscar nominated, Oscar winner, it probably means that I need publicity, I need promotion, I need advertising to sell the film, because there's perhaps not enough draw or power to make it the top of a list film per se. I must say also that that's probably the same. I should include also recipient of other awards. Anything that says best documentary, best actor, for instance, whether it comes from the Oscar or for the European Film Awards, which I'm a member of the Academy, or from the Lumières Association, which is the equivalent of the Golden Globes in Europe, in France, sorry, or Golden Globe winner. Everything adds to the marketing. Yes, it helps. I don't know. I wouldn't be able to put a figure, but that helps sell probably easier to the people like sales agents or exhibitors or buyers more than to the audience, but still it's a plus. Any kind of laurels, film festival laurels, or helps make your package look better. So that was Oleg's first question. His second question was which version of the same film is more interesting for you as a viewer to watch? If in the first version stars an Oscar-winning actor, and in the second version stars another super talented one, but without an Oscar yet. So, as a viewer, again, It's a hard question, and I'm not sure I can make a difference there. I would tend to say I'll be more impressed if it's someone I know, like a super talented actor, like Oleg was saying, meaning, but also someone I respect because I loved every movie. I don't know, like someone like Anthony Hopkins. Anthony Hopkins cannot go wrong. Anything he will do, I'll go for it. Or a specific director. There are films that you expect the same level of quality, film after film, like Woody Allen, etc. So the fact that Woody Allen has not received many Oscars. I don't know exactly how many, but I think I released 3 films of his, and I think Alice got a few. But he's probably not someone that the Oscar would recognize and would welcome. There's a few. There's many reasons. The first one is as a director, as an artist, he's not as respected in the States as he is in France, for instance. And I do remember meeting with him at the Ritz and saying, "Oh, Woody, did you know that your previous film, Alice, did more box office wise in France than in the States, and also more in France than rest of the world." And I still can remember the music of his answer saying, "Oh, really?" And yeah, he didn't know that France was such a dear audience for him, and it was a real treat to work on his films. And but he would not be very very supported by the American community and the American voters in the Academy. Of course, his personal trajectory is interfered in that in the judgment of the Academy. So therefore, in some cases, I don't follow the recommendation of the Oscar wins for some political reasons, or because the Academy tends to award special performances like over the top. Like, for instance, if Robert De Niro plays Raging Bull and he put on a lot of weight and started working in boxing, then his Academy his award is well deserved, but it's kind of caricatural thing. A performance like Anthony Hopkins in Remains of a Day, which I handle also, was so subtle and beautiful. I can't remember if he won an Oscar for that, but all I'm saying it's going to be harder for the voters to give an award to Anthony Hopkins in that one rather than the performance when someone plays the lead singer of Queen or Elton John or whatever. So it's a hard question. I will answer probably by saying I'll prefer go watch the film that someone has made, whose films I love. And well, of course, I could stay with you for another hour and discuss all my experience, and it's fun. It's difficult. I must add something, by the way, where talking about the Oscars, it's important to mention the work done by the people who handle the Oscar campaign. It's a very specific work, and not all PR publicists and publicity company can handle that. It's really, well, first you have to follow the rules, and they are very strict. You must only say what's allowed by the Academy, a film by, starring, etc. You may not, when you address the Academy voters, you may not brag about whatever you want, etc. It's very strict, and you may only go through the tools that the Academy is giving you. So there's a lot of restrictions, and so therefore the skill of the publicist is into the scheduling, the timing, the pace that they manage to give. A pretty good example was in the Harvey Weinstein days, and something we cannot take from him, this quality, his sense of his flair for spotting and sourcing films that can go up to the Oscars. The example I had in mind was The Artist, who started the career in Cannes, and of course a very smart move, and he decided against many other people, and it was, I think, also a very last minute thing. So anyway, it started in Cannes, won there, and then went on winning a series of laurels and wins, and ended up winning Oscars for a film that had no dialogues and a silent movie with a French actor, and the French actor winning was a very, very rare, and the consequence of very smart marketing. So it's a long story, again, one of mastering the arcades of the media and the influence that you can get. And of course, it's important to have a big network and know who is in it, and do things. There are many ways to go there, but it's expensive, but it's worth it, because even though it's no longer 20%, it's probably very important, more important for the actors, the directors, the crew, than the studios in terms of reward. But anyway, I'll be happy to put a sequel to this short, probably lengthy video, feeding on the comments that you may have. So do not hesitate to leave questions, and I'll try to address it. There are so many things I didn't share that I could, and I'll be happy to do that next time. Thank you so long, and go for the Oscars. Yes.